just thought I'd do a few videos about how to play the game and just some little tips and tricks that I thought I'd throw together. So let's just call this build as tips and tricks. So I imagine this will just be like episode 1 or part 1, I guess you'd call it. And I'll just go over the absolute basics. So this is assumed that you basically haven't played the game before, or you have just heard of it and you want to get into it, that kind of thing. So yeah, if it's too basic for you, feel free to skip to the next thing. Basically, I'll just cover essential controls, PvE versus PvP, and PvPvE. I'll have a little talk about different play styles. I'll show you a little bit around the base just so you can get a sort of a basic idea of what you can do with the game. Be aware that this my server I'm using here, this does have mods, but in these tips and tricks that I'll show you things that are with the mods, and I'll also talk to you about ways that you can do things in the vanilla game so you can get some interesting building styles and things. So you can see a little Jerboa on my shoulder. He's an import from Scorched Earth. So this is my base at the moment. So if you aren't aware what ARK is, it's a game where you get to play with dinosaurs. We'll just call them dinos. You can have there's mammals. It's essentially everything from like prehistoric kind of animals to completely, like I said, dinosaurs, guys. So dire wolf, painted a bit like a border collie. I've got my tickle monster up there, sheep. So it's a pretty versatile game, and the kind of people who play this, you've got everything from people who just want to have a muck around and a bit of role playing. You've got servers out there that are kind of like the Wild Wild West. You've got servers out there that are full-blown PvP, so player versus player, where they attack each other and you raid each other and that kind of thing, to servers where everyone just wants to either build or tame or do a whole bunch of different things. So just to take you through the basics of the controls, so WASD, move around, look around with the mouse, pretty standard things. Common things I guess people might want to know. I'll just put something in my inventory. I'll just go to my smithy. There's a few little hotkeys that you can do. So say I click on my smithy here. So, left click and drag, you're going to bring the stuff over. Another way you can do it, double click, we'll just transfer one. If I hold down shift though, and I click and drag, and I release the mouse, then let go of shift, it'll take half. However, if I go shift and then I let go of shift first, it's going to drag the whole thing over. So shift, and you get half. If I wanted to just have a few, then I could do shift and then double click, and it will take 5 at a time. So there's just some handy little things that you can kind of do. Early game, you'll probably be doing splitting meats, assuming you don't have this little mod. So this is the meat spoiler, which, to be honest, I probably just mostly use for music. Early game, it's pretty awesome because you put meat in here and spoil it fast, so you can make narcotics, which I'll talk about a bit later because that's to do with leveling up. But in terms of controls, I'll just quickly show you. Oh, he's got no meat on him. I'll just go kill something really quickly. But the way that spoiling works is you'll have something like meat in your inventory, and it'll spoil in a bit of time. Alright, just kill the dodo. Yes, so I've got 53 meat now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a little cheat of how to split the stack really quickly and why to split the stack really quickly. So when we say splitting the stack, what we mean is grab the meat, and I'm just going to hold down shift and just do this. So I'm shift and I'm just dragging and releasing it until I get it separated into one. The reason I'm doing this is if I look at that pile of 13, see how it says spoil time of 9 minutes 39, 38. What that means is when that spoil time goes down to 0, it's going to go from 13 meat to 12, and one of those meats would have spoiled, and that'll become 2 spoiled meat. Now, however, that's obviously going to take it's going to take 9 minutes times 13 to go through that whole stack. But if I split the stack and all of these are now in singles, what's going to happen is all of a sudden you've got this 9-minute timer on all of it. So when that 9-minute timer runs out, all of these, all 50 or whatever, however many there were, they're all going to spoil at the same time. So that's just a little trick you can do early game when you're wanting to try and get resources. But like I said, I'll do probably another part or video that talks about setting up. I'm just trying to think what else. So with controls, another thing I'd probably recommend when you first start the game up is go to options and actually have a fiddle with how you prefer to play the game. Now, I've obviously got my stuff. I could probably set it all to epic, but some of my builds get pretty big and it's sort of the frame rates drop a little bit. So that's probably why I've got my stuff set the way I do. Just a personal thing for me is when you start the game up, your inventory is automatically assigned to tilde, and your toggle console, I can't remember what that's set up to originally, but it's not that. So what I always do is I change that to tab, and I change the toggle console to tilde. Just personal preference, I guess, from games I have that are very similar to that and how they really work. If you ever do forget what a button is, just have a little read of this. Very important whistles. So once you do tame a dino, which again I'll take you through that on another video about how to tame and how to set the game up. But once you do have a dino tamed, you're eventually going to have quite a few of them. And it's recommended that you very quickly know how to whistle, because there is certain whistles you can do in the game to make the dinos do what you want. So for instance, I can look at, say, my Anki, and I'm going to press T. I'll put so you can see what's going on. So T. Now, can you see how it says above his name, Rock Clearer, in green writing, and then it says following builder level 90. That means if I go run away, he's going to come follow me. Come on, buddy. There he goes. Now, if I want him to stop following me, I'm going to press Y, and he's going to stop following me. Now, if I sit on him and I look at my bird, so I'm going to look at Quick Claw, I'm going to press T. Whoop. There we go, T. Now, he's not actually following me now, he's actually following the Anki. So you see how it has his name and it says following Rock Clearer. So he's actually following the Anki. Now, this is what we call, people I play with at least, we call this tethering the dinos. So this is a handy thing you can do. Let's say I just tamed this Argy, but I'm not a high enough level to make the saddle. Or let's say I tamed this Quetz over here, but myself and my tribe are not high enough to make a saddle and we need to beg and borrow. Now, it's a good idea to tether the dino, especially Quetzes, because what will happen is if you don't tether, especially at Quetz, they decide to just fly off and land wherever they please, which can be outside your base and get killed by another dino, to all sorts of problems. So it's a good idea to tether them. It means that they're just going to hover around the dino that you've tethered it to until you're able to do something about it. Another good reason that you should be tethering some dinos like this is, especially if you've got something, say, set to neutral. So let's say this guy, this is one of my guard dogs. I'm going to make him follow me. If I wanted him to stay on wander, which is what he is, he's just wandering at the moment. So he's following me, but I'm going to press T and he's going to be staying with the Anki here. That way he's not going to go around and he's not going to get lost. So if I press Y, it's going to stop him from following the Yankee. So I'm going to put him back over here. Cool. Off you go. Just going to close these gates and get out again. Too easy. So that's that. One thing you've got to be aware of, so T, like I said, that's for following one thing, and then you've got Y to stop it following just that dino you selected Y on. Now, the reason that that's handy is because of these two other whistles that you should know about. There's J, which I'm not going to hit, because if I press J, all of these guys within range of the whistle are going to come to me. Now, that's going to obviously mess up my yard. If I have dinos out and about, let's say I've gone out, okay, let's say I'm out of my base and I might have a whole bunch of dinos with me, I might hit J and they'll all follow me. And that just saves me going T, 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 pressing T on all of them. It's easier just to whistle J. Now, if I want to stop all of them following me, I press U to make them all stop following me. However, there's a catch, because if I have a dino following another dino, like over here, I'll show you, U will not work. So So I'm going to have here, I'm going to have him following Rock Clearer. Now if I press U, see, nothing happens. It still says following Rock Clearer. I have to press Y to make that stop. So if anyone's having issues where you've got a dino following another dino, especially early on when you're harvesting and you're using something like a stego or a trike or a paris or something, you know, early game to harvest, you might start getting a little panicky if, you know, you're pressing U and it's not working. Just double check if it's actually following you or if it's following another dinosaur. I'll talk a bit about PvE, PvP and PvPvE. Also being aware that I'm going to be talking about it based on my understanding and the understanding of the gaming community that I play with. So PvE basically means player-verse environment in many games. It's essentially, you know, people help each other out in theory, and in theory they all get along quite well and there's no damage to property. Now in ARK, what that means is the structures can't be damaged, dinos can't be damaged, and players can't really be damaged. However, you can still be hurt and damaged by, I guess, dinos in the wild. And on some servers, or most PvE servers, it also means that a dino can't pick up another dino. So if you are new to ARK and you are not aware what this means, I'm going to grab my Archie again and I'm going to go pick something up. Let's say sheep. Pick up my sheep. In PvE, most PvE servers, you would not be able to do that. However, there are some PvE servers where that is enabled and you can pick things up. Now, that's handy. The positive of that is, you know, taming things. You find something out in the wild, go, oh, that's pretty awesome, I'm going to tame it. So let's say I pick it up and I would have built a taming pen, like over here, and drop it in, and I want to tame it. Not a sheep, obviously, because, you know, sheep you just walk up, feed it, and it's yours. But on some PvE servers, that can be abused, and the way that gets abused is people will pick up a dino that's aggressive, like, I don't know, a raptor or something, and they'll chuck it in a pen like this and let it kill all my stuff. So that's where you get... So on a PvE server where players can't really actively shoot or kill or harm other players, it means that they control each other, but they'll stick a wild or aggressive dino into a pen to kill their neighbour's stuff, which is obviously not very good. But that's only some servers, and it depends if the admin has actually turned that and enabled that on. So it depends on the community on whether they would have done that. If it's a PvP server, that generally means that it's full-blown player versus player. Players will be attacking each other, raiding each other. And if you aren't aware of what the concept of a raid is, it literally means that this particular base you're looking at right now, I have certainly not built this for a PvP server. If I was on a PvP server, this wouldn't exist. I would log off overnight and it would have been demolished, most likely, or if not demolished, they would have punched a hole in here to have a check things out. They definitely would have smashed into my house to check out my smithy and my fabricator and see what I've got in there. My forge would probably be destroyed because they would have gone for the metal. They may or may not have gone for my greenhouse, and in here they may have also destroyed. So this really is a kind of base that is more of a PvE base, where I would assume that I can't get hurt by other players because I've built in wood and stone because it's pretty, and I've built mostly for aesthetics, as you can see, just because, you know, I think it looks good. But as a PvP kind of a base, this is certainly not the way that you would be building. The way you would be building, one example over here was something I just did for kind of giggles and explaining, sort of testing things out. You would have a base that probably looks like a box, and it would be either honeycombed or basically covered in turrets. This is just an example of one kind of a turret tower that you can do if you want to do it. Essentially what you'd really want is you want a bunch of these kind of towers or something similar to this, and you want them around your base with covering fire to stop people coming into your base. So the plant X, my plants up there nuts, but the plant X that you've got on top, they shoot out, I don't even know what you want to call them, green blobs at people or dinos, and they slow them down. They do a little bit of damage, but it's really the slowing down that you want on a PvP server. So the plant X combined with turrets is the way to go, because they can try to come at you with a bird, or they'll try and come at you on foot or on another dino. The Plant X will slow them down or slow the dino down, which gives the turrets a better chance to finish them off. Also, using a circular turret kind of shape like this, or kind of, you know, oval kind of shape, It's also a good idea because it gives you a lot of surface area, I guess, exposed to the turrets. I may or may not do another video on different types of turret designs. I was going to do some more up here. But there's various different things depending at what stage of the game you're in. If you're on a PvP server and it's an early game, I'll show you on another video how to set up just for early game, which obviously won't help you if a big tribe finds you, but it's just going to be help if someone roughly your level or mid-game finds you. Turret towers can be like toothpicks, which is essentially what people call them when they're really just one foundation wide and they go straight up and they just got turrets, turrets around it. That, before they nerfed the flyers, so there was a point where the flyers used to be pretty good at, you know, they had high speed and weight was a bit different and some other stats were a bit different. People used to use them as bombers. They'd put C4 on the Quets, that big guy, or they'd put it on things like Pteranodons and fly them at the something like a turret. So there we go, Pteranodon, something like that. They'd put C4 on it, fly it in there. So if you had toothpick turret towers, they're kind of good mid-game because they're quick and easy to get up, but they're pretty weak. It's quite easy for someone to, you know, go up to them, blow the base, and there goes your turret tower. So for PvP servers, which I will do a thing when I show you how to really build one, your base is going to be pretty compact. You might have it hidden in the forest if you're early game, and not until much later, until you can put it all into metal and defend it, will you come out into the open. Now PvPvE, I guess, is a different classification of playstyle, and I think it's fair to say people have their own opinions of what it is. Some people could argue that technically PvP is anyway PvPvE, because it means player versus environment. So the concept is it's supposed to be a combination of PvE and PvP. So from what I've experienced, it's essentially PvP but with rules. So if I was playing on an official PvP server, it would honestly come down to the current players of that server about whether I'm going to have a fun time with griefing or not. Because on official servers, griefing or harassment can happen quite often. So that means that someone can find your base and literally destroy your entire base, all of your dinos, just for the sake of it, even though there's no necessary reason for them to do that. Or they can cage you indefinitely. They can capture you and put you in a cage and not ever let you out, so you essentially can't play the game. Other things they might do is, like I mentioned, that can happen on PvE servers, which is they pick up dinos and they can drop them into your pens, which is why a lot of people end up building roofs over their pens. They tend to not have pens like this on a PvP server because you're just going to have, all it takes is one dick out there to pick up something aggressive and drop it in there. And even if you've got something on neutral to defend it, I mean, they can still sit there, take a pot shot, kill the thing that you've got defending, like my wolf. They might shoot my wolf because they know that that's defending everything in there, and then just drop something wild in there. So what I'm trying to say is, on a PvPvE server, if you are on one of those servers, they're usually unofficial. Actually, I don't think I know of any official server that's PvPvE, but they're on unofficial servers. There's hopefully an admin that's pretty active who can police it, and there's usually some basic rules, and some of them can be as simple as harassment related, so no excessive caging or don't kill passive dinos is a very common one. So what I mean by that is, let's look at my RG. So when I go to my RG, it doesn't say in here, so I'll put this back on. Now you can see here it says Quick Claw and it says aggression level passive. So that means that I could be an enemy and I could come in here and punch him and he's not going to do anything. He's just going to sit there and take it like a champ. Whereas if I had him to attack my target, it means that if I tell him to attack something, he's going to do it. Now I could do that with a whistle, which on my keyboard is I think it's the equal sign. Let me just double check. I think it's attack my target, period, sorry. So I could set him to attack my target, which is period. And if that's also handy if I want to just whistle him onto something. So if I get my spyglass out, zero it in on, let's say, pretend that was a wild dodo, and I would press period, he would fly over and attack it. Now, what that means is if I set this guy to neutral, this means that if someone or something attacks him, he's going to attack back. So that's just explaining what I mean by neutral passive, attack my target. And then the last one is aggressive, which I'm not going to set him to, because if I set him to aggressive, he's literally going to fly out and just kill whatever's in attack radius of him. So with a PvPvE server, it really honestly comes down to the server. There are some servers with heaps of rules, which mean it could be, you know, you can't cage someone to a certain extent, you can't raid someone more than once within a certain period. So it's very hard to find a server that has a balance of these rules, because obviously not everyone's going to be happy. There are going to be some people who want you know, a bit more freedom to raid. There's going to be people who want a bit more protection from raiders. So the way I really see it, it's like if you're on it honestly comes down to the community. And in some cases I've been on a server where the admins were there and were present, but the actual alpha tribes on there, us being one of them, one of the times there was us and maybe 2 other tribes, which I would have argued were the alphas, we kind of turned into a bit of the police. So the admins were on and did what they could when they could, but obviously they've got lives and, you know, real world stuff that they've got to deal with. But if someone was being a dick or someone was doing the wrong thing, let's say someone was complaining over the global chat that someone was killing their passive dinos, myself or one of my tribe mates or someone from one of the alpha tribes would fly over and investigate. And if they saw that the person was doing what was alleged and the admins weren't online to deal with it, then we would deal with it. So that might be, we might have captured them and caged them, or you know, various little things like that, or even just give them a warning. Like sometimes us just showing up on a walkwets and, you know, pointing something at a weapon of some sort, whether it's a mini turret or something at them, and telling them to back off, or just threatening with lowering their base was usually enough to make them back off. But yeah, so it just honestly comes down to the community. If you log on to a brand new server and you look around and there's a bunch of bases that have been freshly raided, good chance is that there's active raiders on there, which it's then up to you if you want to stay on that server. Because if you stay on that server, then you know that you're going to be hit by raiders, but some people like that challenge. I mean, I was playing on one server that was a relatively aggressive server, and I was just doing it to kind of kill time. And essentially the tactic you do is you just go straight into the woods and you just make a very small compact base and you live out of it, and you just have maybe 2 or 3 types of dinos that you use for utility and harvesting. So for instance, this is what we call a harvesting dino, so I'd use this for my metal. At the moment I use it for metal collection. Drop him off with the quets, put the metal in here, which I've got smelting at the moment from my last metal run, and just do that. Whereas if I'm on a very aggressive server and I've just started up and I want to stay on that aggressive server, I will just go in the trees. I might make a 3x3 base, which again I'll talk you through another video of what to do. And essentially you know that there's still a chance that you're going to get hit. If you get found and that tribe that finds you is an aggressive tribe and they decide to wipe you, you might come back and find literally nothing left. If you're lucky, they might have left you some foundations, which you might be able to salvage to make more foundations, but maybe not. So, yeah, I can't think of anything else to really cover. I'm sure some of you have thought this is too boring and skipped through a lot of it. I'm going to do a bunch of other different videos, some tips and tricks for building. I'm sure while watching this, you probably had a look at some of the stuff you can see. So, this is built with Structures Plus, but I can show you some ways to do similar builds on the vanilla game. So this is, so these are using equilateral triangles, but you can do it on vanilla using pillars and little tips and tricks like that, which get you a 45-degree angle. So if you're pretty decent with geometry, it's a bit of fun playing with these kind of things. If you're not decent with geometry, it's good trial and error. One of the other things I can talk about when you're starting off for the very first time, a bit of things like end game sort of accomplishments. So by the end game, different people play the game for different reasons. I mean, there are bosses that you can fight, beat the bosses, you get element and unlock tech engrams to get to the tech stage. If you are new to the game, I'll fly up and just show you something up here, dripping on you. And you might not be able to see it. Let's see, it's a bit hard. Let's see if if I can come over here and you can see one of the obelisks. Don't think the weather's good for it. Not the greatest weather. There are 3 obelisks. You can sort of see this one appearing through the clouds. That's my gamma at. Alright, so you can sort of see that. I can fly closer one day and you'll get to see it, but there are 3 of these on the map. And essentially what they are is the one that's on the volcano, which I've been meaning to check out since the update, but the one that's on the volcano, that's the snow one. There's a volcano in the middle of the map that has a tech base that you can go into. And these 3 obelisks have this kind of tech-looking base to all 3 of them. And you use that for uploads and downloads. That's how I've got this little Jerboa guy on my shoulder. So this Jerboa, this little cute fox thing that I've got on my shoulder, he actually doesn't spawn on this map. There's another map called Scorched Earth that has wyverns and other dinosaurs on it. Some of them you can find here, some of them you can't. But some of them are exclusive to Scorched Earth. The same as there are some things that are exclusive to the island that you can't get on Scorched Earth. But if I upload a dino that I've got from Scorched Earth, I can download it if I enable downloads. Now, if I'm playing host, meaning I'm playing with friends or something, I tend to disable downloads just in case someone jumps on and decides to download a level 1 million Rex or something, Giga, and have some fun. But that's never really happened, to be honest. So yeah, when you get endgame, some people go for tech, some people try to just tame everything under the sun, some people try to build a mansion, some people just want to, I don't know, build a giant Pac-Man or something. People have their own endgame points. Most people, it's to get to tech tier right now since tech tier came in. If it comes to taming, you need, well, you don't need, but it's helpful to have kibble. So people will mostly get a greenhouse set up and they'll have a couple of things. So I've got a couple of corn, citronelle, which is essentially lemons, essentially potato, and then rock carrot, which is basically carrots. I've then got different types of the normal berries and things that you would normally pick up. And what you do is you go into my kitchen and I would just craft it and make up some kibble. And you use kibble to basically tame super fast. So this has just been an overview of what ARK is, how it plays, what you can do in the game. Oh, clearly I haven't shown you everything. There's lots of different types of dinos. You can go under the ocean. I've got my plesiosaur over there that if I wanted to, I can go looking around for blueprints. I can go looking around for silica pearls, which you need to make things, or oil or other bits and pieces like that. And yeah, so like I said, this playthrough I've got is with mods. Different various mods on here, which I can put in the description if anyone's interested. And the following videos I'll probably be doing will mostly be to do with the server or forum of the, sorry, I can't even talk, it's a bit late. It's mostly got to do with the forum, the server that I use, which is called playark.com.au, and the gaming community that's there. So it's all to do, mostly to do with the kind of settings and rates that the host, the admin, has for those servers, and with the mods that he uses for those servers. So, but having said that, I mean, even if you don't play on that, the servers that he admins, there'll be hopefully some tips and tricks that you can use for your own games. Like I said, I'll talk about it in terms of Structures Plus and the mods that I use, as well as how to do that in the vanilla game. So yeah, it's night time now, so I guess it looks rather pretty with all the lights around, but it's quite dark. I could gamma it up. So if you do want to change your gamma, you can type in gamma. I do gamma 4 and I get my night vision on, or I can return it back to normal gamma. Another little cheat sort of thing you can use. And before I finish off, I'll show you one more little thing that you can do if the server you use enables it. But there's this r.bloom quality 0. Now, it doesn't really matter because it's nighttime, but that's to stop that really super bright glare that you might get sometimes that just blinds you, especially off metal if you're in a metal base. So yeah, thanks for listening through this. I hope I didn't bore you, and I hope that you took at least something away from this. I am also fully aware that this is a very basic video, and assuming that you don't know much about the game at all. So yeah, thanks for listening. Catch ya.